Nora raised an eyebrow. What happened? Mr. Hunt's just called. He told me that his grandmother still hasn't woken up. He asked you to call him back as soon as possible. Nora was bemused. Here was I, thinking that something really terrible happened. She called Justin and heard his deep voice answer the phone. Miss Smith, my grandmother still hasn't woken up. I'm sorry, she coughed and said. I forgot to tell you yesterday that because she's so weak, she most likely won't regain consciousness for a few more days. These things take time. You must understand that. I'm sorry for not explaining all the details. That's my mistake. Justin fell silent for a moment. Nora thought back to the dispute they had had in the hallway when she had been busy checking the old lady's condition the day before. Will it cause you any trouble with your son and with the rest of your family? Those are just trivial matters. Justin paused. Then he asked, Don't you have to come back to the hospital and check on my grandmother today? Nora asked him, Is your son at the hospital with you? No, he isn't. She replied, Okay, it's pointless for me to come in. All will be well as long as her vitals are normal. I trust that the doctors there at the hospital will be professional when it comes to her nursing and care. There's no need for me to be there. NYC General Hospital was directly affiliated with the Hunt family. The wages and benefits they offered to employees were extremely attractive. The most renowned experts in the country worked at the facility. In the hospital, Justin stewed over her words after he hung up. He looked through the glass window on the door to his grandmother's room in the ICU. He pursed his lips tightly. Doubt flickered in his eyes. Why is she asking about my son again? It was as if she'd have come if Pete was here. Howard noticed his sullen expression and asked hesitantly, Is your grandmother all right, Justin? Justin replied, She's fine. Howard nodded. Phew. I know I don't like Pete, and of course he's not worthy of being Justin's son, but I care about her. I hope she'll wake up soon. He looked back at Justin and noticed that he was frowning as if he was thinking about the biggest problem in the world. Are you sure everything's okay? Justin pondered for a moment and then decided to talk about what he was thinking about. He looked at Howard and asked, What might be the reason a woman would show an interest in getting to know Pete? Howard answered, It would definitely be because she wants to marry you and be his stepmother. Justin asked hesitantly, But what if she's very cold and distant toward me? Howard scratched his head, then he grinned and said without thinking, Surely she isn't thinking of becoming your daughter-in-law. Even though he'll make someone very happy in the future, Pete's definitely too young to think about betrothing him to someone. Justin didn't find the joke funny. Howard saw the warning look in his eyes. He rubbed his nose and changed the subject. He asked carefully, Justin, if you're free today, can you take me to the Quinn School of Martial Arts? Justin glared at him. He turned and walked out. Howard hurried after him, struggling to keep up. Where are you going? To go pick up Pete and go to the martial arts school. Great, can I come too? Howard caught up. It won't be quite how I wanted, but at least I'll still get to go. Nora opened her email inbox. There was an investigation report and a message that Solo had sent. Athena, Justin is surprisingly easy to investigate. Hacking into his computer was a walk in the park. I've attached a document with all of the information. It clearly lists everything he's done, from his childhood to the present day. There's something very strange, though. Apart from his name, Peter Hunt, everything else about his son is securely hidden. I couldn't find anything at all. Nora was disappointed. She opened the file and looked up the month when she'd got inexplicably pregnant with the twins, only to find that Justin hadn't been to California at that time. She closed the mailbox. Was what happened yesterday really just an illusion? It can't be. I have to find a way to meet Justin's son. She felt crazy just thinking about it. But after 5 years of fruitless searching, she wasn't going to pass up any possibilities. Mummy, didn't you say you're taking me to Grandpa Quinn's today? Cherry ran into the room wearing a princess dress. Nora looked at her phone and saw the text message that Quinn had sent her early in the morning. He's probably given up waiting for me to reply, but he still hasn't called me. He must have been worried he'd disturb me. He's so kind and patient. That was exactly the sort of person Quinn was. On the surface, he seemed like a cheeky old man. He would jokingly tell Nora off for being lazy and sleeping so long every day, but deep down, he understood that she needed the rest. Nora smiled and video called him. He picked up almost immediately, reprimanding her loudly. "What's wrong with you? How can you sleep in until this hour? It's already afternoon. If I'd known what had happened, I'd have sent someone to pick Cherry up a long time ago." Nora ignored him. She grinned and pointed the phone camera at Cherry. When Nora had been abroad, they'd often made video calls to each other. Cherry waved and said adorably, "Grandpa Quinn, Mummy and I will come and visit you right now." "Good, good." Quinn stroked his grey beard and said, "Let's hang up and stop wasting time then. Hurry over." Nora took Cherry with her and went downstairs. She chatted with Melissa and the elderly Mrs. Anderson and learned that Simon would be discharged in another couple of days. After that, she borrowed their car and headed to Quinn's school. Half an hour later, at the school's entrance, Justin stood with his hands on his hips as he looked at the ancient gates. The words, "Quinn's Martial Arts Hall," were written on the sign above. Howard, standing behind him, glanced sideways at Pete with disdain. Pete certainly resembles Justin quite a bit, but no matter how hard he tries to mimic him, he's still nothing but a little good-for-nothing. His grades are dropping all the time. Back in our day, Justin was always miles ahead of the rest of us. Even though Justin's his dad, there's no way Mr. Quinn will look twice at someone like Pete. He won't be interested in him, he thought smugly. He heard footsteps coming towards them and quickly stood up straight. Quinn came out with his hands clasped behind his back. He didn't look very happy to see Justin. He asked, "What are you doing here? Is Irvin dead yet?" Justin bowed respectfully and replied, "Mr. Quinn, I'm not here at my teacher's request this time. I'd like you to teach my son." Quinn grimaced. "I'm not interested in your son at—" The words hadn't fully left his mouth when he spotted Pete. "Cherry?" he exclaimed in surprise. Quinn stared at Pete. Then he rubbed his eyes and looked at him again. Even the wrinkles on his face couldn't hide his surprise. He had never met Cherry in person, but they had spoken throughout video chat many times over the past 5 years. Quinn always thought that people looked a little bigger on camera than they did in real life. At first he thought maybe that was why the child in front of him looked smaller and a little skinnier than Cherry. He was astounded at how similar their facial features were, though. This little boy looked practically identical to Cherry. Pete had immediately realized what Quinn was thinking when he'd heard the instructor exclaim Cherry's name. He took a step forward. With his back to Justin, he looked up and asked meaningfully, "Do you think I look like one of your other students? I know grown-ups think kids all look the same." Pete gave Quinn a meaningful look as he spoke, trying to send him a message with his eyes. Quinn caught on quickly. He touched his beard and said with a cough, "Yeah, I must have made a mistake." Inside, though, he was puzzled. He had been on a video call with Cherry only a few minutes ago. How could she suddenly become Irvin's student's son in the blink of an eye? Wait, son? Quinn looked back down at the boy. He pointed at Pete and asked Justin, "He's your son?" Justin was confused by what Pete had said to Quinn and got the sense that there was something strange going on. But when he heard Quinn's question, he nodded and answered, "Yes." Quinn swallowed in disbelief and looked down at Pete again. The little boy really did look so much like Cherry. Quinn thought of Nora. Could it be that... Justin saw how hesitant and contemplative Quinn looked and decided to speak up for his son. "Mr. Quinn, since Pete is my son, it would make sense for him to join the Irvin School of Martial Arts. But I don't think Irvin's style is right for him. I think he would be better off here. The style you teach is about being bold and confident. I hope you can accept my son as a student." The Irvin School's style tended to rely more on strategy and cunning, and the students often used insidious tricks when they fought. They were famous for being unpredictable, crafty and sly, always taking the enemy by surprise. On the other hand, the students at the Quinn School of Martial Arts practiced a more direct style. The students gained strength and speed through sheer hard work. Pete was an unusually quiet child, often lost in his own thoughts and seemingly unsure of who he wanted to be. Justin worried about his future. He wanted him to be strong and capable. He needed to learn to speak up for himself with confidence. Studying with Quinn seemed like the right way to achieve this. But Justin noticed that Quinn was staring at his son with an expression of disbelief. Justin's brows drew together, and his eyes shone with determination and resolution. "Mr. Quinn, if you're still reluctant, I'll challenge the school. You can decide the rules, and if I manage to win, you'll accept Pete as your student." He was referring to the unspoken rule of the Quinn School of Martial Arts. If someone succeeded in their challenge to the school, then they could name a favor in return, as long as it was not immoral or illegal. There was no record of anyone ever succeeding in challenging the school. It was proof of the school's high standing in the world of martial arts. Howard was shocked when he heard Justin's challenge. Does he understand what he just said? The students there were extremely skilled. Justin was talented as well, but the students could easily overwhelm him with their numbers alone. Howard didn't understand why Justin was trying so hard for someone as undeserving as Pete. He was so quiet and fragile. There was no way Mr. Quinn would find him worthy to accept as a student. Howard studied the old man's face and realized that Quinn was acting as if he hadn't heard anything that Justin had said. He merely asked emphatically, "Are you sure he's a boy?" Justin was bewildered. How am I supposed to answer that? He wanted to be able to easily say that Pete was a boy, but with his changing behavior, he didn't know what was the right thing to say anymore. Pete's expression darkened with worry. He hurriedly exclaimed, "My name is Peter Hunt, but you can call me Pete. Of course I'm a boy." He practically squeezed the word boy through his gritted teeth. Quinn raised his head to the sky and laughed loudly. He looked at Pete as if he had found a rare treasure. He had never expected Nora's long-lost son, who she had been searching for over the last 5 years, to walk into his school. He scanned the boy from head to toe and could tell that the child had the right stature. He was very well suited to practice martial arts. He turned back to Justin. "I'll accept him as a student. We can start practicing today. You can leave him here if you have other things to take care of." Justin was surprised, but pleased. Hesitation flickered in his deep-set eyes. Quinn noticed that Justin seemed unsure about leaving Pete there. He asked roughly, "What? You don't trust me?" Justin shook his head and replied, "Of course I do. It's fine." Quinn was a respected figure in martial arts circles. He worked with children daily and knew how they needed to be treated. If he was willing to take Pete on as a student, Justin had no reason not to trust that he would treat him the same as his other students. Quinn placed a hand on Pete's shoulder and was about to take him inside when Howard stepped forward. "Mr. Quinn, my name is Howard. I am a huge admirer of your work. I'd also like to join the school as your student." Quinn turned his head and glanced at him. He scanned him up and down before showing a touch of disdain. "What makes you think you deserve to join us?" Howard was taken aback. He couldn't think of anything to say. Satisfied at his silence, Quinn turned and walked in. Another student had held the door open for them and was about to let it shut when Howard suddenly shouted, "Mr. Quinn, why would you take that weakling but not me?" The student frowned at Howard's harsh words and slammed the door shut. Howard couldn't make sense of what had just happened. He touched his hook nose with a puzzled, fierce look on his face. Why is he so interested in Pete? And what was all that questioning about him being a boy when it's obvious that he is? I hope the old guy's not losing his marbles. Justin glanced at him in disgust. "I think you're the one who's losing it." Howard rejected the insult. "You might think I'm stupid, but at least I know I'm smarter than Chester. I really don't understand why Mr. Quinn looked at me like that. Why do you think he rejected me?" Justin turned and walked ahead. As he left, he replied, "Figure it out yourself." He didn't know why Quinn had rejected Howard either, but he wasn't going to admit that to him. In the middle of the spacious hall, Quinn looked at Pete gleefully and said, "I know you're Nora's son. Go ahead and acknowledge me as your teacher. After that, we'll officially be teacher and student." He was very anxious to begin their training. He didn't want to miss this opportunity, but Pete had to be the one to make the student-teacher relationship between them official. Pete stared at him. Then he nodded and said, "But can you agree not to tell Mummy for now? Cherry and I have already agreed to surprise her with it." There were still 2 days left before his great-grandma was supposed to wake up. Pete hoped that his mother could interact a little more with his father before then. Maybe she could find something to like about him. Quinn touched his beard and said, "No, I can't." Pete replied calmly, "Then I won't acknowledge you as my teacher." Quinn frowned. "Do you think you can threaten me with that? Even if you don't acknowledge me as your teacher, I still found you. Sleepyhead will be so grateful she'll have to let Cherry be my student too." Puzzled, Pete asked, "Who's Sleepyhead?" "Your mum." Pete was speechless. He had never heard anyone call his mother that. They stood and glared at each other in a stalemate for almost 10 minutes. But then the sound of approaching footsteps interrupted their standoff. Cherry's voice rang out from outside. "Grandpa Quinn, I'm here!" Quinn immediately raced outside. When he saw Nora, he exclaimed, "Nora, I'll tell you a secret if you let Cherry come train with me."
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.